The Trump regime is trying to tell you a story. Pretty simple story, actually. The Democrats failed the troops. We didn't. We're making sure they get paid. And not only that, he's saying on behalf of the regime, we got this, personally. The military has Trump and his friends, not the people of the United States, to thank for their paychecks. Except it's not true. The $130 million from Mellon amounts to $100 for every member of the U.S. military, who need roughly $457 million a day. You can't even begin to cover them. $130 million is a drop in the bucket. But like every authoritarian, Trump's not special here. He's following the standard playbook. Control the narrative, suppress the truth, project the story. Look at what I think is actually happening and why, from a resistance history standpoint. It's a pretty big deal. Hey folks, I'm Tad Sturmer. I'm a scholar of resistance history and the American Revolution at the University of Southern Denmark, and the author of Resistance History of the United States. Trump manufactured the shutdown of the government, and then he ran over a law called the Anti-Deficiency Act by moving $8 billion from research and development accounts to pay the military. And yet another rejection of words in the Constitution that are supposed to be pretty clear. Congress gets to determine where and how your tax dollars are spent. He decided where your money goes. Congress to him now is just an annoying detail. Then a billionaire Trump donor, a guy who's already given him $165 million, writes a check for $130 million. The Pentagon joyfully accepts it and issues a statement thanking the donor, quote, after Democrats opted to withhold pay from troops. Standard authoritarian move, not very creative, create the crisis, violate the rules while blaming your opponents, take credit for breaking the system. And here's what they're burying. That $130 million works out to about $100 per service member, less than 1 day's payroll for 1.3 million troops. So it's just theater. But the number sounds big enough so that most people won't do the math. They'll just be impressed by the ostensible power of Trump and his patriotic friends. But the Constitution is clear. Article 1, Section 9, no money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law. Congress appropriates funds. It's not a suggestion. And the Anti-Deficiency Act explicitly prohibits private donations from offsetting lapses in appropriations, exactly what this does. The president doesn't get to redirect appropriated funds. Private citizens don't supplement government payroll. The Pentagon doesn't accept donations to pay troops. All of this is illegal. Nobody gets to pick and choose what parts of the government get to continue and what don't. Congress does that. And yet, here we are. No one will actually look into this violation. It will never be prosecuted. It won't even be enforced. Nobody will bat an eye at it. So effectively, does it exist? Both that law and the language of the Constitution, if it is now being ignored and there's no way to enforce it, what does it actually do? Well, it's just words on a piece of paper. It's open, laughing contempt for the Constitution. But the story works because it's emotional, and it's got a big symbol, $130 million, but it has patriots supporting troops, Democrats and Congress failing them. The leader gets the job done with his own cadre of friends. Most people aren't going to examine the mechanics. So, what's the message? Also pretty clear and pretty simple, right? To service members, to institutions, to everyone watching, the military answers to the regime. The loyalty of the military is to the regime, not Congress. Congress doesn't have their back. The Democrats certainly don't have their back. Not constitutional appropriations. Their loyalty is to Trump and whoever he designates. And he shows Congress is irrelevant by moving $8 billion just unilaterally. And then the donor money adds this token of private wealth to the pageant. We control when the military gets paid. We control who pays them. We control what they get paid. And Congress has no response. Because Congress has no response, it has shown that it has no power against someone who simply acts. See, the Constitution is a gentleman's agreement. It works only as long as everyone pretends it matters. Trump just stopped pretending. And resistance history tells us something about this moment. Every warning the Anti-Federalists issued about the problems with the Constitution has come true. Every single one of them. The executive was too powerful, stronger than any king that had ruled over America. It would swallow the legislature. Standing armies answerable to the executive would threaten liberty. The structure would enable a tyranny worse than anything Americans had ever seen from a monarch. No kings? The Anti-Federalists would be happy with a king that was controlled more than an American president was. James Madison dismissed every single one of those arguments. He said separation of powers would work because ambition must be made to counteract ambition. Wow, was he wrong? No genius, little Jemmy. He built a system assuming virtue would constrain ambition. But the Anti-Federalists, the old revolutionaries who had started the whole American Revolution thing in the first place, they understood power. They'd watched it operate. They knew what it could do in the wrong hands. They knew what executives did when only constitutional text restrains them. And they were right. Madison built the government wrong. But here's kind of a darker piece, at least for me, everybody this side of Ken Burns, I guess. Washington, Jefferson, Madison, all of them said multiracial democracy would destroy the republic they created. And they said so explicitly, they said so repeatedly. Jefferson insisted throughout his life that black and white people could never coexist as equals within the United States that they were creating. Washington enthusiastically agreed, and he feared what would happen if voting was ever extended to beyond the propertied white men of his establishment. Madison designed the Senate and the Electoral College to insulate government from popular influences, from you. They didn't build a system to prevent tyranny, they built one to prevent democracy. Ruled by the mass of the people, by the majority, that they viewed as unfit to govern. Their entire structure frustrates democratic will while maintaining the appearance of popular sovereignty. Isn't Trump just using that system the way it was designed? Wielding consolidated executive power to resist multiracial democracy. Isn't that exactly what the founders would have done? You see, they never objected to tyranny when they exercised it. Washington against the Whiskey Rebellion. Jefferson violated the Constitution to buy the Louisiana. He knowingly exercised the authority, knowing it was unconstitutional, spending money to expand territory and extend slavery. He sent federal troops to enforce his failing embargo in Vermont. Showed them contemporary America, multiracial, democratic, universal suffrage, black Americans in power. And they'd see exactly what they feared. The republic destroyed by expanding political participation to those they deemed unfit. Trump consolidating power against that? They might understand. They might approve. See, Trump represents both things. The fulfillment of anti-federalist warnings about constitutional weakness and the logical endpoint of federalist assumptions about who should wield power and against whom. This is not a new story. We have been here before. We know how the movie ends. The story being told, we take care of the troops when Congress won't. Cements regime control while everyone debates constitutional history and what is or isn't legal. That all stopped mattering when power decided it didn't matter. Does the military now belong to the regime? The Constitution offers no remedy because it was never designed to stop this. The founders built a system that makes tyranny hard to stop once someone decides norms don't matter. They just assumed the tyrant would look like them. And he kind of does.